BBC Radio London. Well, regular listeners will remember this phrase, the Croydon Cat Killer. And there are many people in South London and indeed beyond who have really lived in fear of this cat killer striking again. And the news is that the story has moved on because a description of the so-called Croydon Cat Killer has been issued by police. A man is believed to be behind the death and mutilation of about 250 cats, as well as dozens of foxes and rabbits, all of this going on since October 2015. Tony Jenkins is the co-founder of the South Norwood Animal Rescue and Liberty. Hello, Tony. Good morning to you.
How you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. I mean, we've spoken about this on many occasions before, haven't we? And so far, one of the things that no one could ever really understand, not you, not me, not any of the listeners, was how could somebody, an individual, we never knew whether it was an individual or whether it was lots of people, but how could anybody be doing what this Croydon Cat Killer has been doing and yet not be seen by anyone? We could never work it out, could we? And now we think the police have an idea of what this person looks like.
Yeah, it's hopefully an important breakthrough because it's been going on for nearly 2 years now, and a lot of dead cats and a lot of very distraught owners. So I'm really pleased that at long last we've got what hopefully is a very reliable witness and description.
And do you want to describe the Croydon Cat Killer? Or I can do it if you like, whichever you prefer.
No, you go for it. It's what the police have released.
I mean, he's said to be a white man in his 40s.
That's right.
With short brown hair, dressed in dark clothing, possibly with acne scarring to his face.
Yeah.
He may be wearing a headlamp or carrying a torch because he's always doing these things under cover of night, isn't he, at the dead of night? And you may also want to describe, Tony, for people who are new to this conversation about the Croydon Cat Killer, he doesn't simply kill cats, does he? It's much more sadistic and much more vile than that, what this person does.
Yeah, he's been killing a lot of cats. He's also done a lot of foxes. There's some very, actually, I won't describe the mutilations, but it's very unpleasant. And he often presents them on people's doorsteps and under their bedroom window for them to find. He also does public places like if a cat lives near a school, he'll move the body over near the school for the school children to see. We've had playgrounds in the park, things like that. It's absolutely disgusting what he's been doing, and I'm just so pleased that at long last we may have a reliable description for people to look out for.
I mean, that had to happen at some point because these, as you say, these were fairly relatively public places, in front of schools, in front of people's doorsteps, that we felt that somebody must see this person at large. So now we think it's this man, don't we? I'll just repeat one more time what he looks like, that he's white, he's in his 40s, short brown hair, dressed in dark clothing, possibly with acne scarring to the face, wearing a headlamp or carrying a torch. Obviously he has to, we can't see what he's doing. What else do we know? How recently has this person struck?
The most recent one was in Barnet, but prior to that, he did a very nasty one in Northampton, where he basically, no easy way of saying it, he chopped the poor cat up, he removed the head, the tail, all four limbs and the ears, and then he put them all back into a Morrison's carrier bag and left it on the owner's doorstep.
And as you've just revealed, I mean, he's spread his tentacles wider and wider, hasn't he? Because originally it was Croydon, then it was other parts of South London, and then we started to hear about it in Surrey and various places, and now you're saying Northampton? Gosh.
Yeah, we've had confirmed cases in Manchester, in Birmingham, Brighton, Portsmouth. So, I've said before, like, we tried to lose the Croydon Cat Killer tag. It was, originally started in Croydon, or we think, but we very quickly found out it had actually been happening all over the place prior to that. It's just our investigators, because we're based in Croydon, and we started investigating it early on. The press said Croydon Cat Killer, and we've tried to avoid that because it actually has given people the impression that it's only happening in Croydon. We called them we recently, very quickly moved on to M25 Killer, then we realised it was on a bigger scale, so we called him the UK Animal Killer, because he has done at least 50 foxes with exact same sort of sometimes signature injuries. That's why we know it's one person, because sometimes there's like signature injuries that we can almost tell straight away it's the same person.
I must say,
it's very difficult for someone else to replicate that or
very hard, isn't it, to try to put yourself into the mind of somebody who would do something so sadistic, so violent, so, you know, so cruel, so brutal, so forensic in terms of the excisions and the mutilations and the reassembly of the bodies, and then putting them in the place where they're going to cause maximum heartache to those people who've lost their beloved pet cats. What I don't get that at all, obviously. I can't understand why anyone would behave like that. But the thing I really don't get is, why would you do the same to foxes? Because you're not going to elicit the same reaction. It's not as if people are going to be devastated at the loss of their pet fox. That's not going to happen. So why would you do that unless... What kind of a mindset would mean that you would do the same thing to foxes, which are, although urbanised, wild animals? It's just peculiar, isn't it? It's also peculiar, isn't it?
Yeah, I think what Zane is, it's very much a crime against humans. You know, you wouldn't expect to find a decapitated fox in your garden.
Oh, that's what it is, to cause people fear and fright.
And we've long thought that he often perhaps hangs around on certain occasions and watches people's reactions.
That he's there to watch, you think? How do you know that?
Well, we've had... It's very difficult to go into, but we've had a number of reports. For example, we've had cases where cats have been seen and they've been intact and looked like roadkill, and then they're actually moved and decapitated and then placed in someone's garden. You know, things like that. So there's you know, a lot of evidence suggests that on occasion he may hang around and watch people's reactions.
Oh,
and that
dear.
must be part of his thrill. So I think...
God, it is time he was caught, isn't it, really? This is ridiculous. It's been going on far too long.
We've also had a number of sort of like rabbits found as well, and at least one deer, you know... A deer's head and one paw.
Oh, my God.
Placed in a residential garden, obviously occupied by children, because there was a trampoline, and the pole was placed just underneath the entrance to the trampoline, and the head just next to it, and miles away from where you would expect a deer to be. How did a head and a paw get into someone's garden?
For goodness sake. All right, so what can we do, Tony? If people have just joined me, I'm talking about the so-called Croydon Cat Killer, not really an accurate name for him, and it is a him because police have just issued a description of what the guy looks like. We think it's one individual. There are all sorts of hallmarks of the same killing in all the different corpses that have been examined. And Tony, what can we do? The first thing you'd like people to do is keep their cats in at night. That's one thing.
Yes, and keep them in, particularly at night. Most of the attacks happen overnight. We've had a few daytime ones, so what we say is keep your cats in, particularly overnight, and try and just let your cats out when you're at home so you can supervise it. The second thing is, you know, if anyone finds a mutilated body, don't assume it's an animal attack. You know, call us, call the police. And thirdly, just sort of remain vigilant. If you see someone late at night, perhaps particularly if it matches the description that's been released, then phone the police immediately on 999, and hopefully we'll get an appropriate response.
Do we think it likely that if you see this person at night, he will be carrying a sack or a bag or something?
I imagine he's probably got a rucksack or some sort of bag, but also, more importantly, he's obviously carrying at least one knife.
Yes, is someone large with a knife. This is not good, is it?
People to tackle him, because obviously he may just turn on a human and stab them or something. That's why we say, you know, call the police on 999, and also call us just in case, you know, the local police don't respond accordingly. Most of the police forces are now sort of on board and aware of the case. But if it's out of London, for example, the local police might not sort of be aware of the case. If they ring us as well, then we can then contact the investigation team, particularly the DS who's in charge of the operation,
Thank you for talking to us. Tony Jenkins, their co-founder of South Norwood Animal Rescue and Liberty. And the story is of the so-called Croydon Cat Killer. When I say so-called, not because he's not killing cats, but because they're not necessarily in Croydon. He's spread his net far, far wider than that, including Manchester, Birmingham, Brighton and the Isle of Wight. Also not just killing cats anymore, but also foxes, rabbits and one deer. And, dismembered body parts from these different animals distributed all over the place to cause maximum upset and shock. And let me give you that police description again, because it really is high time that guy was caught and put behind bars for what he's done. He's caused such distress to human beings and, of course, to animals. He's said to be a white man in his 40s with short brown hair, dressed in dark clothing, possibly with acne scarring to his face. He may be wearing a headlamp or carrying a torch. That's from the police, and it's the first development we've really had in trying to find out who this person is. Elizabeth Ritzine is here with the weather. Hello, Elizabeth.